Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive. This time, we are going to be looking at the power of idleness in our super busy world.
Right.
And our main source is Autopilot, the art and science of doing nothing
Okay.
by Andrew Smart.
Yeah.
And we'll also be looking at some other supporting stuff to kind of give a bigger picture. So are you ready to rethink how we think about productivity?
I think it's a really interesting idea. We are always told to be as productive as possible, but what if stepping back can actually lead to better insights and better creativity?
Exactly. And we're going to start way back in the early 1900s
Oh, wow.
with a poet who was all about this idea, Rainer Maria Rilke.
Okay.
He was known for his poetry that was really introspective, and he really, I think, embodied this idea of embracing idleness.
Mm-hmm.
He famously said, "The only journey is the one within." What do you think he meant by that?
It's a powerful statement. It makes you think that the real way to discover yourself and grow is from looking inside and just quiet thinking.
Yeah.
Not just from stuff you do on the outside.
And Rilke really lived by this. He dedicated his life to his art.
Yeah.
Even giving up normal ideas of success like a stable job or family life.
I see.
He got the base. That idleness wasn't just being lazy. It was about making space for something much deeper to come out.
And that's where it gets really interesting. Rilke thought that idleness was the key to being creative. He even used this phrase, idle with joy, which seems almost rebellious in our culture that's so focused on productivity. You think we kind of wear busyness like a badge of honor these days?
Absolutely. It's like we are afraid to slow down, to be alone with our thoughts. But Rilke saw it differently. He saw idleness as a path to knowing yourself, which is what fuels work that really has meaning.
And what's really cool is that science is now starting to back up what Rilke felt instinctively. Have you ever heard of the default mode network in the brain?
I have heard of it, but I'm not really sure what it is.
Oh, okay.
Can you explain it for me and our listeners?
Sure. It's a group of areas in the brain that become active when we're at rest.
Okay.
Like daydreaming or letting our minds wander, not focused on any particular task. And basically, it's what our brains do when they're on autopilot.
So it's like the screensaver mode for our brain.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And research has shown that this default mode network is super important for processing social information, developing self-awareness, understanding emotions, and even making creative connections. So it's not just about zoning out, it's about engaging in a different kind of mental activity.
So Rilke's times of idleness weren't just about relaxing. He was actually using this powerful brain network to let those creative ideas come up to the surface.
Exactly. And think about this. Rilke had a 15-year gap between
Right.
publishing major volumes of poetry. His most famous works, the Duino Elegies and the Sonnets to Orpheus, came out after times that might have looked like he wasn't doing anything to the outside world. But it's clear that something really dope was happening under the surface.
It's like the creative process was working on a subconscious level, just simmering away until it was ready to be expressed.
Exactly. And there's a cool detail about how Rilke wrote
Oh, really?
that supports this. He often said writing poetry was like taking dictation,
Interesting.
as if the poems were coming to him almost from somewhere beyond his conscious mind. It's like his idleness allowed him to quiet all the mental noise and tap into a deeper source of inspiration.
That's amazing. It really makes you question the idea that we have to be on all the time to be productive. What happens when we don't allow ourselves these times of downtime?
Yeah.
Could it be that we're actually stopping our own creativity and insights?
That's a great question, and it's one that Andrew Smart really digs into in his book.
Okay.
He's especially worried about how our super busy culture is affecting kids. He uses this powerful image of kids being bombarded with never-ending activities, which leaves them with very little time for free play and exploration.
That's so true. It's like we've created a culture where being busy is the most important thing, even for children.
Right.
It makes you think at what cost.
Well, Smart points to the scary rise in anxiety and depression in kids,
Yeah.
which some experts think is linked to this lack of free play.
Wow.
It's a really serious thought. Kids need time to just be to explore their world without the pressure of organized activities. They need time to daydream, to be bored, to let their imaginations go wild.
And that unstructured playtime isn't just about having fun. It's about developing really important thinking and social skills.
Absolutely.
It helps them be creative and builds resilience. It's a crucial part of growing up.
Definitely. And Smart talks about this really scary statistic.
Oh, I know.
This generation of kids might not live as long as the one before them.
Really?
And he thinks this is partly because they don't get enough free play and all the good things that come with it. It's a pretty serious wake-up call, don't you think?
It is. It really makes you stop and think.
Yeah.
It seems like our obsession with doing more might actually be doing more harm than good.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we start to reclaim this lost art of idleness? Is it even possible in our world that's always connected and always on?
It is possible, but it takes a real change in how we think.
Okay.
And that's where Jenny Odell's work comes in. Her book, How to Do Nothing, Resisting the Attention Economy, gives us a really strong framework for understanding how we can take back our attention and find space for meaningful idleness in this digital age.
I like that. So first off, what exactly is the attention economy?
It's a term that describes how our attention has become like a valuable product in the digital age.
Okay.
Companies are always fighting for our attention through notifications, ads, apps that are made to be addictive and a never-ending stream of content.
Right.
It's like a constant battle for our mental space. And the more time we spend online, the more valuable our attention becomes to these companies.
So it's not just about our own choices.
Right.
There are powerful forces out there that are trying to keep us hooked and engaged, even if it's not good for us.
Exactly. And Odell says that this constant flood of information and stimulation can lead to feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and like you're always on without actually achieving anything truly satisfying.
That's so relatable. It's like we're always busy, but never feel like we have enough time.
It's like running on a treadmill, constantly moving, but not getting anywhere.
Exactly. And I'm guessing Odell isn't saying we should all become Luddites and ditch technology altogether.
Not at all. Her message is about being more deliberate with our attention.
Okay.
Doing nothing, in Odell's view, isn't about being lazy or unproductive. It's about making a conscious choice to disconnect from the attention economy.
I see.
To reclaim our time and mental space and to focus on things that are important to us and bring us real satisfaction.
Yeah. So it's about setting boundaries.
Right.
Being more mindful of how we spend our time.
Yeah.
And choosing to step away from the constant noise and distractions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I'm ready to hit pause and see what comes up.
Me too.
I can't wait to hear more about how people are doing just that. Finding ways to add idleness into their lives and what they're getting out of it.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back after a short break.
See ya soon. It's wild how much our culture is all about constantly doing something. You know, it almost feels wrong to say that doing less could actually be better.
It does go against everything we're told, right?
Yeah.
But like we've been talking about.
Yeah.
There's more and more evidence that shows that idleness, when you do it on purpose, can be a really powerful tool for creativity, insight, and just feeling good overall.
And there's this awesome example of this from the design world.
Okay.
Have you heard of Stefan Sagmeister?
Yeah, the name sounds familiar. Remind me what he does.
Yeah. So he's a super famous graphic designer, and he has this totally unique way of balancing work and life.
Okay.
Every 7 years, he closes his design studio in New York.
Oh, wow.
For a whole year.
A whole year. That's a big deal. What does he do during that time?
He calls it a sabbatical, and he uses that time for personal projects, travel exploration, anything that makes him curious.
I see.
It's like hitting a giant reset button for his creativity.
So it's not just about resting and getting your energy back.
Right.
It's about actively looking for new experiences and inspiration.
Exactly. And it totally works.
Yeah.
Sagmeister says that the work he does after these sabbaticals is always his best.
Wow.
And most innovative. It's like taking that time away allows him to come back with a fresh perspective and a ton of new ideas.
It makes you wonder how many amazing ideas we're missing out on because we're scared to take a break.
Right.
We're so used to thinking that we have to be constantly pushing that we forget how important it is to step back and let our minds wander. But what if, like Sagmeister, we embraced these times of intentional idleness? Could we unlock a whole new level of creativity and innovation?
I think so. And you know what's even cooler? This isn't just something some random creative genius does.
Oh, really?
Companies like 3M and Google have policies that actually encourage employees to take time for personal things and exploration.
I'm surprised to hear that. You wouldn't normally think of these huge companies as being okay with downtime.
It seems counterintuitive, but it turns out that some of their biggest innovations actually came from these times when people weren't technically being productive.
Like what? Give me an example.
Well, 3M's famous Scotch tape was invented by an engineer during his 15% free time.
Ah.
This was time that the company encouraged people to use for their own projects.
Wow.
And those Post-it notes that are everywhere?
Yeah.
Those happened because a scientist at 3M was working on his own thing during work hours.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's crazy how these little moments of downtime can lead to such huge innovations. It really changes how we think about productivity. Like, it's not just about being busy with assigned tasks all the time.
It really makes you think. So if these companies that are known for being innovative and successful are okay with this idea of downtime, maybe it's something we should all take more seriously. What are some ways we can actually bring idleness
That's a good question.
into our own lives, even if we can't take a year-long sabbatical?
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, there are lots of ways to do it. It doesn't have to be a huge thing.
Okay.
It could be as simple as scheduling breaks throughout the day, you know?
Right.
Step away from your desk, go for a walk, get some fresh air. These small things can make a big difference.
It's like hitting the reset button on your mind.
Exactly.
Giving yourself a chance to come back to work with a fresh perspective.
And you could also think about dedicating a couple of hours each week to a personal project, something you enjoy that lets you tap into your creativity. It could be anything from painting to gardening to learning a new language, anything that gets you out of your routine.
I like it.
And into that flow state.
It's about taking back those little bits of time that we often waste on scrolling or busy work and using them for something that truly nourishes us.
And, of course, taking a real vacation where you actually disconnect from work and technology is super important. It gives your mind and body a chance to completely rest and recharge, which can then make you more creative and productive when you go back.
It's like investing in yourself.
Exactly.
You're giving yourself the space and time to reconnect with your own needs and interests.
Yeah.
And that makes you a more well-rounded and engaged person.
Totally. And the benefits go way beyond work.
Oh, really?
Idleness can also make our relationships stronger.
Wow.
Help us appreciate the simple things in life and make us feel more peaceful and content.
Wow. That's a great way to look at it. It's not about being lazy or unproductive.
Right.
It's about choosing how you spend your time and energy.
Exactly.
And making choices that are good for you overall. But let's be real.
Yeah.
In a world that values being busy, it can be tough to embrace idleness without feeling guilty or anxious.
Yeah.
How do we deal with that?
That's something a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the messages we've learned about productivity and feeling worthy.
Okay.
We've been taught to believe that our value comes from how much we do, how busy we are. So when we choose to do less, it can make us feel guilty or not good enough.
It's like we're scared of being judged or seen as lazy or unproductive.
Exactly. So how do we break free from that fear and embrace idleness without judging ourselves?
That's the big question.
Yeah.
It could be a real struggle to get over that feeling that we always need to be busy. It's like we're wired to think that doing equals being worthwhile.
It is a deep-seated belief in our culture.
Yeah.
But you know, it's really important to remember
that our worth isn't about how much we get done. We have value just by being who we are, not because of what we achieve. Cultivating self-compassion is crucial here. It's about allowing ourselves to rest and recharge without beating ourselves up about it.
Self-compassion. That's powerful. It's about treating ourselves with the same kindness and understanding that we would give to a friend.
Exactly. And it's also important to notice the messages we're getting about productivity from society, from our families, even from our own internalized beliefs.
Right.
Once we start to see those messages, we can question them and challenge them.
It's like waking up from a dream and realizing that we can choose how we react to these pressures.
Exactly.
You don't have to buy into this idea that our worth is all about how busy we are.
Right.
This has been such a thought-provoking conversation. We've talked about the surprising power of idleness, how it can spark creativity, increase self-awareness,
and even help us make breakthroughs in our work. We've also talked about the importance of being intentional with our downtime, finding what works best for us and overcoming the guilt and anxiety that can come up when we choose to do less. But before we wrap up, I have one last question.
Okay, shoot.
If doing nothing can be so beneficial, is there a point where it becomes too much of a good thing? Where's the line between restorative idleness and just becoming stagnant?
That's a great question, and it's something that Jenny Odell actually talks about in her book.
Okay.
She acknowledges that this whole doing nothing thing can be taken too far.
Right.
It's not about totally withdrawing from the world or not caring about important issues.
Yeah.
It's about finding a healthy balance.
So it's not about checking out completely, but more about strategically stepping back to get perspective.
Exactly. Odell makes a distinction between refusal and escape.
Okay.
Refusal, she says, is about consciously choosing to disconnect from that attention economy.
Right.
It's about stepping away from all the demands on our time and attention so that we can reconnect with what truly matters to us. It's an act of taking back control over our lives.
Okay, the refusal. What about escape?
Escape is different. It's about avoiding reality altogether, burying ourselves in distractions to numb ourselves from tough emotions or responsibilities.
I see.
It's about checking out, not checking in.
So refusal is empowering because it's a conscious choice to step back and reassess.
Exactly.
While escape is driven by fear or avoidance.
Right.
One helps us grow, the other keeps us stuck.
Precisely. And I think the key to finding that balance between good idleness and stagnation is all about our intentions. Why are we choosing to do nothing? Are we trying to reconnect with ourselves, to spark our creativity, or to just rest and recharge? Or are we trying to avoid something uncomfortable or hard?
That's a good point.
Being honest with ourselves about why we're doing it is crucial.
It's about being aware of the choices we're making.
Yeah.
And realizing that sometimes the most productive thing we can do is to step back and just allow ourselves to be.
Absolutely. And it's important to remember that there's no right or wrong way to do idleness.
Right.
What feels restorative to one person might feel super boring to another. It's about finding what works for you.
Yeah.
What makes you feel alive and engaged.
It goes back to that idea of personalized attention we talked about earlier.
Right.
What works for a Stefan Sagmeister or a Rainer Maria Rilke might not work for everyone. Experimentation is key.
I agree. Try different ways to incorporate idleness into your life. Maybe it's daily meditation, a weekly hike in nature, or a monthly digital detox. The options are endless.
Wow.
The key is to find what feels right for you, what helps you reconnect with yourself and get your energy back.
And be open to changing your approach along the way.
Yeah.
What works at one point in your life might not work later on.
Exactly. This journey of embracing idleness is an ongoing exploration. It's about becoming more in tune with our own needs and rhythms and making choices that support our well-being in every way.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today.
I hope so.
We've explored the surprising power of idleness, the importance of being intentional with our downtime, and the challenges of embracing stillness in a culture that prizes busyness.
We've just scratched the surface, but I hope this deep dive has made you curious.
Me too.
And inspired you to explore the benefits of doing nothing in your own lives.
And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you found ways to make restorative idleness a part of your life?
Yeah.
What works for you? Share your experiences with us on social media.
Remember, we're all in this together, figuring out the complexities of modern life and looking for those moments of peace and rejuvenation.
That's a great way to put it. And on that note, we'll leave you with one final thought.
Okay.
A question to consider as you go about your week. If busyness is our default setting, what would it look like to make idleness our new normal?
Until next time, keep diving deep, even if it means diving into a little bit of nothing.